The problem with Facebook is that they make it incredibly easy to spend money. The best way to think of LinkedIn is to think of LinkedIn not as a social media platform, but to think of it as a business casual media platform. It's not social, it's business casual. Your results will be significantly better. In other words, you will raise more money faster from more investors, right? For the same amount of effort that you put in. It's scaling.
How do I not spend 7 hours a day on LinkedIn? Because I don't know, I've got a real job or a business to run.
What I like about LinkedIn is
he says the following to me. He says, Mauricio, I have cracked LinkedIn. I have cracked the LinkedIn, what is it? The algorithm, the system, the code, the LinkedIn code. So we're going to do a last minute pivot here. And if you want to learn about his investor acquisition system, a lot of it is on his website. Is it gowercrowd.com?
Yes, it is. Gower.
Gower, Gower. So you can go look at that. And that walks you through kind of what I've been doing over the last several years in terms of content marketing, websites, email marketing, SEO, all that kind of fun stuff. But let's go with it. Let's go with this LinkedIn thing, because I feel like I've actually been left LinkedIn behind a little bit. I'm getting back into it, but LinkedIn's such a great platform for real estate syndicators. So everybody here should, if you're not already on LinkedIn, definitely go on there. It just has for me, it's got a lot of syndicators and it's got a lot of LPs, a lot of people looking to invest. So if you don't have a LinkedIn presence, you absolutely should. I'm not saying don't do the others. I'm just saying LinkedIn, I think for most of us probably should be a major focus. So with that, Dr. Gower,
one of the most popular platforms, you asked, how did I come to LinkedIn? So one of the most popular platforms, and we've spent, again, probably, I still need to be careful with my language, probably into the millions of dollars of ad spend on Facebook, both on our own account and also for clients to find accredited investors, right? The problem with Facebook is that they make it incredibly easy to spend money. You create a campaign, right? And they'll show you how to do that. It's not that difficult. You create a campaign, you give them your credit card, right? And then Facebook does everything. They optimize the campaign and they send you leads, and you don't really have to, there's not a lot of thought. I mean, there is some, and you got to do some tweaking. But in real estate, the quality of the leads that you get from Facebook are appallingly bad. So you can expect, these are real numbers, you can expect to convert between up to 2% of all leads that come through within the first 90 days. The best way to convert those leads, unfortunately, is to pick up the phone as soon as the lead comes in and screen the prospect and then set them up with a sales call, right? So that's the best way to do it. So
Adam, when you say convert, are you meaning literally they just fill out whatever the form is, or you're talking about investing in your deal?
Writing a check, signing docs. Okay. That's a real conversion. It's the only real conversion that matters. So 2% of Facebook leads will convert in the first 90 days, but the best way to do that is with a phone call as soon as the lead comes in. What that means is that you have to make 100 phone calls for every 2 wins. It's very inefficient. It's costly because you need a team in-house. It's costly because the ad spend is expensive and because your conversion rate is so low, right? The lead quality is very low. So I decided to explore other possibilities. And about 5 months ago, I decided to dive into LinkedIn and to really plumb the depths. And by the way, just to be clear, there are other components, and this gets back to your original agenda, Mauricio. There are other components to an effective marketing campaign when you're trying to raise capital. It's an ecosystem that you have to build. It starts with your website. You have to have a high converting website. And by the way, on my website, there are over 1 million words of content. So there's a little search bar at the top. Run searches on there and see what comes up, right? There's all kinds of stuff. There's a bunch of free training. There's all kinds of things there. But you got to have a website that is a lead generating website. In other words, you got to have content that encourages people to give you their name and email address. So it has to keep in mind at all times what's in it for me. That's the only thing that anybody cares about, right? When they come to your website, what's in it for me? So always be answering that question and have lead generation forms that when somebody completes it, triggers a sequence of automated emails. So that's your machine, right? That's the machine that sits in the very core of your capital raising effort. Now, once you've got your machine, you need to drive traffic to it. And the way that you can do that is two ways. One, paid marketing, or I got a reminder that I need to get on my bike, like I ever actually do that. So you can either do paid advertising or you can do organic marketing. So organic marketing is free, but takes time. But the quality of the leads that you get are significantly better than almost anything you can do through paid advertising, but it does take more effort. Now, the reason you do that, kind of the reverse of that, is that if you go out and market and you don't have a robust website with good educational, authentic content on it, is that when you go out and do marketing, whatever it is, you're on a podcast, you speak at a conference, you do paid advertising on Facebook, or you put an ad in a newsletter, whatever it is, or you're on a webinar, you're on a show like this, what's going to happen is that prospects will do research on you. They're going to research you, right? They're going to pick up their phone. I don't know, people might be doing that while we speak, right? On me, like, who is this guy? So you're going to go to the website, you're going to go to LinkedIn, you're going to run a chat GPT search or a Google search, and you're going to see what shows up. Well, if you don't show up, it's a much heavier lift for you to entice that person to engage with you. And even when they do, now you have to work to educate them, because now what's going to happen if there's nothing out there? That first call is, okay, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do multifamily? How long have you been doing it? What's your view of the IRR? Where do you think the market's going? Et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have to go through all of that again and again and again, or your IR, investor relations person, is going to have to do that. It's a heavy lift and it's very inefficient. It's the way it used to be done for decades because the law mandated you did it that way. You couldn't solicit from people you didn't know. Now that you can go online. So what you want to do is make that process of doing research on you super easy for your prospects. So you need a website and you need a good online presence. Now, two things happen from that. One, your prospects are able to come to know, like, and trust you much more efficiently because you're not doing all that heavy work for them. Your online presence is doing it. And then what was the other thing? I lost my second, the second idea there. But so it reduces the amount of time that you have to spend with them. So they will. The other thing is you now control the narrative. Right. So Mauricio went to ChatGPT, for heaven's sake, and said, who is this guy? And ChatGPT answered. Well, if it hadn't done, or if Google hadn't come up with that answer, you'd have to dig deeper. It'd be just much harder for you to do it.
So Adam, in full disclosure, most of the information that ChatGPT grabbed from the internet was from your website, which means there's a lot of traffic going through your website. So it's pulling it from a high thing. So again, as ChatGPT and other AI software comes out, having a website that has a lot of traffic with information on it, that's where this technology is going to pull information from.
Yeah, and also just being visible, right? I mean, they know that it knows that I'm on dozens of podcasts, quoted in the press, whatever. I appear a lot. I'm active on LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. So it's having a general presence. So doing this doesn't reduce the amount of time that you have to spend raising capital. It's not like you switch a machine on and, money floats in through the ceiling without you doing anything. You still have to do the work. But the difference is you are now scaling. Because now instead of talking to one person at the time, you're talking to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of people. So what happens is that people come to know, like, and trust you before first contact. Now, Andrew Lucas, and I won't quote him by name only because he did say this in a podcast with me. So you can actually listen to him saying it. He's IR at Tryon Properties. So I asked him, what was the difference between your experience of investor relations before we built the system and after? And he actually described it very well. He said that first contact with investors, they are significantly further along in the sales cycle. So they already know who you are. They know your background. They know your track record. They know your investment thesis. They are predisposed to investing when you have first contact. Now, the ideal investor never has contact with you, and that's what we strive to do at all times. You want to create a pathway for them. It's called the investor journey, a pathway for them so that they can consume, understand who you are, come to know, like, and trust you, look at a deal, evaluate and read the docs, and make their investment without actually connecting with you. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. One of our clients is well, I shouldn't be specific because you'd know who it was, and I don't want to be indiscreet. But we ran a deal. It closed very quickly, and he said, send me a list of all the investors, because he didn't even know who'd invested. So I sent him the list, and I was on a Zoom call with him as he was looking at this, and he said, oh my goodness, I can't believe that guy invested. And I panicked. Oh my goodness, what did we just do? I said, why? He said, because I've known him all my life, and he didn't even call me. He didn't even call me. He just invested. And so what you'll find happening if you have a good system in place is that you will activate your current and existing network in a way that you didn't imagine possible before. If you call somebody in your network and say, I've got a deal I'd like to pitch you, who's going to take? Nobody wants that. No one has the time. But if they get a message, or they get a text, or they get an email, or they see you on social media, they might just go ahead and learn about it, make the investment without any contact with you. So you want to make it as easy as possible. All right. So are we okay to go to LinkedIn now?
Yeah, let's go there. But before you do that, I have a quick question about Facebook and the way you're setting this up. Is this the website specifically? You were talking about the website and the lead magnets. Is this exclusively for deals that you can advertise, or does this also work on 506B deals, meaning your website set up slightly different because you obviously can't directly pitch? Can you talk a little bit about those differences?
Yeah, sure. So deferring to your expertise, Mauricio, I'm not a lawyer, you are, but I do understand this space reasonably well. So I actually don't know why anybody does a 506B anymore, frankly. It just makes any kind of marketing so much harder. You can't solicit, you can't talk about the deals, you can't project result. There's just so little that you can do. What you can do is you can talk about your investment thesis, the way you see the world, what you think about multifamily, you could educational content about the different metrics that you might measure, et cetera, but you can't solicit. So it's very limiting. None of our clients do 506Bs. They all do 506C offerings. It is possible. It's just very limiting. Because you've got to
we've done videos on that too. So that's where I was going. So most of your clients, all of your clients are doing 506C. So
yes,
you've got that flexibility. Cool. And then the other question I had, just sort of as a personal thing too, which I'm sure will help others. And again, if you guys have questions in the chat of any of this stuff, please put it in there so we can answer them. But I know you were talking about the sort of the disappointment on the Facebook ad side. What about this idea of actually uploading your existing email list to Facebook to target just those people? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So that's called, that is, so of course, the word has slipped my mind. Basically what you're doing is you're creating an audience that looks exactly like the audience of your ideal prospect. So if you upload your list to Facebook of existing investors, in theory, it's called a lookalike audience. In theory, what Facebook will do is it will aggregate the demographics of that audience and go out and find other people who have the same characteristics and then market to those people on the theory that if this group with this demographic, these demographic characteristics like you, so will these. It works pretty well. You do need to have a fairly large audience to upload. And if you think about it, just think about your investors now. What kind of demographic consistency is there across that audience? Apart from income, right? You've got income thresholds that you've got to meet, or wealth thresholds for accreditation compliance. But apart from that, you've got doctors, IT professionals, business people, lawyers, accountants, who knows? So it's very difficult to really know what are the common threads. So it does work. You can use it. It does deliver relatively better results, but overall, your conversion rate is going to be 2% on Facebook.
So not as good as LinkedIn because you've cracked the code on LinkedIn. So let's get to LinkedIn. Why LinkedIn?
Different.
Why not TikTok, Adam?
TikTok. I don't know why not TikTok because I haven't tried it. I could try it, but I'm not going to.
Tell me what's so special about LinkedIn.
So what I like about LinkedIn is that you can hyper target. Okay, let me back up for a second. There is a proviso to LinkedIn, and this gets back to what I was saying before. Building a system does not eliminate the need to work. You've still got to work, but your results will be significantly better. In other words, you will raise more money faster from more investors, right? For the same amount of effort that you put in. It's scaling. So to be successful on LinkedIn, you've got to spend time on LinkedIn. And ideally, you want to be spending an hour a day, the same hour. So you book it in your calendar with no distractions, an hour a day, at least 3 times a week. Now, what does that mean exactly, right? So if you're anything like I was 5 months ago, you go into LinkedIn, you look at your feed, and it's just, I've got, I don't know, 16,000 whatever people in my network on LinkedIn. And it's an impossible, infinite scroll, right? It's just like, how do I engage? I don't know who to engage with, right? And it's so random. So I started looking at, okay, and this is something I actually wrote about today. So there's this idea, I'm just going to get really, if you're not into LinkedIn, abandon, actually hold until Mauricio tells you about his new gig until the end. Don't listen now, but I'm just going to focus on LinkedIn because it really works well. So there are things called pods. Now, a pod is a group of people who agree off LinkedIn that what they're going to do is they're going to like and comment on each other's posts. So it gives the impression that you have good engagement, but it's inside this small group of people. It's very predictable. The comments are usually lame-o, right? Because everyone's doing it as fast as possible. And the algorithm, trust me, knows what's going on. You can't fool it. So what I've created instead is what I call spheres of influence. So a pod is bidirectional. That means that if everybody on this call agreed to join a pod, we would all agree to comment and like each other's posts, right? That's bidirectional. I agree to post on yours, you agree to post on mine. But what you really need for effective networking is omnidirectional marketing. That means that you are commenting on somebody else's post, and we'll get to how you do that in a minute, without the expectation or the agreement even that they will comment back. And you do that on a consistent basis. Now, I'm going to put down some notes for myself, just so that I don't lose my train of thought. So the way
And,
that
and the second one you just mentioned, because I was doing this quite a bit. It's very effective. You're talking about, forget about arranging with other people, but literally for an hour a day, you're going to get on LinkedIn and you're going to go make some valuable comments on other people's posts. That's what we're talking about,
correct.
Right? Okay.
Omnidirectionally, without an agreement that they will follow and comment you, right?
Yes.
So you're identifying them. They're called spheres of influence. I'm going to come back to those in a minute. This is what I've developed, and I've developed shortcuts to get in there very quickly so you can be really effective. So the way that I think of this, the best way to think of LinkedIn is, or to understand really how it works and why it works so well if you do it right, is to think of LinkedIn not as a social media platform, but to think of it as a business casual media platform. That's what it's not social, it's business casual. So imagine going into, literally picture this in your mind, because you've been to these events where you go to a conference or you go to a big group meeting of some sort. There are hundreds or thousands of people there, all of whom potentially could be good leads for you, but you don't know who. Right? So you have to develop a system. I used to do this. I'd go round, I'd have a stack of my own cards. I'd swap cards as fast as possible. Hello, nice to meet you. What do you do? Yes, no, on the back. And that was it, right? It was a manual thing I'd used to do. I mean, we've all done it, probably. It's really inefficient. And you got to, excuse my language, you got to bloody fly there anyway. It's like, what the heck? Why would you want to do that? So picture that room full of thousands of potential prospects for you, where each person who is a real potential has a flag, right? Now let's color those flags. Potential investors, off-market deal people, journalists who might quote you, for example. We'll just pick those three as examples. Now you go into that room and you know exactly who to go to talk to. Well, that's how you can do it on LinkedIn. You create these spheres of influence. And again, I've created a system for this that I'm going to be teaching next week. I'll tell you more about that later. But you create these groups of people who are your ideal target prospects, right? So it could be investors, it could be fund managers, it could be sponsors, it could be brokers, it could be journalists, whatever it is. You create these spheres of influence, and each morning you want to be posting every day. All right. So you put out a post that should be consistently out at the same time every day. And for half an hour before the post is published, and you can automate the post. And some people say you shouldn't automate it or schedule it, but you can, as long as you do it this way. For half an hour before the post goes live, comment, get active. And comment authentic, like, what's your real view about something? Got to be careful. I mean, I get tempted to be a bit cynical sometimes. So when I read what I write sometimes and think that might not come across quite right, I'm not sure. I jump over to ChatGPT. Oh, tone this down. I want to be nicer. All right. But it's still my thought.
But you're posting something. And I love that you're saying this, by the way, Adam, because this is exactly what I was doing. We haven't talked about this before, but this is exactly what I was doing, until very recently. Then I kind of dropped off, but I've been doing this. But to be clear, you're posting some legitimate value add comment. It's not like, oh, great post, or I almost feel like a lot of these are bots. Like the way people responding to my comments, I feel like these are either VAs or bots that are just saying, oh, I agree, or perfect. This is more giving you your thought leadership into getting yourself into the conversation, right?
Yes, it is. It is your perspective. Do it yourself. It's worth it. I mean, think about it. If you could go to a work party with all of your ideal prospects at the end of the day, every day, or actually I do it first thing in the morning. I get up at stupid early times, but I start what I call my LinkedIn sprint from 5:30 to 6:30. I usually go over because I'm having so much fun. But if you think about it, that's what you're doing. You see like Game Changer. I see Game Changer because it's not a bloody game changer. Yeah, be yourself. Teach people how you think in the way you comment with them authentically, because no one can really mimic that for you. You have a view of the world that is unique to you. And here's the other thing to think about as well. It's a difficult concept when you're online to really understand. And it's something you could get overwhelmed with. Well, if I say it this way, then these people might not like it. But if I say it that way, then these people might not like it. And so you get kind of tied up in how to phrase something because you fall into the mistake of thinking you got to please everybody. Think instead about the bell curve. Right? You all remember the bell curve from high school math. So the bell curve is the potential audience that you have. And around the middle, where the bell is, are all the people who are kind of indifferent. They could care less one way or another. They could care less one way or another. On the left of that curve, if you remember correctly, are those people who think you are a total loser, right? There's nothing about you that they like at all. They will never engage with you in business. They don't like anything you say. But online, when you're talking about millions of people that you're in front of, on the other side of the curve, for every one of those people who thinks you're a loser, there's somebody dying to invest with you. And it is those people that you focus your messaging on. You communicate only. The language that you use is for those what are called ideal investors or your investor avatar. Speak to that person and be true to yourself. And if you are true to who you are and you're speaking to your ideal investor, guess what will happen? You will attract more of those people. They will be drawn to you. And it doesn't take many of those people to invest with you or engage with you to change your life. And that's how you can do that on LinkedIn. So you asked me a question, Mauricio. Any other questions about that?
No, I think, I mean, it's just crazy. That's exactly what I was, what I was doing. So it's pretty funny that this is, I mean, in terms of spending, I would, because spending half an hour before your post, because remember the way LinkedIn works, or actually a lot of these social media platforms, is if you respond to somebody, and even better yet, they get to either like your comment or respond to your comment, that creates that connection. So they're much more likely to see your next post that you're putting on there. So once you spend that half hour and maybe you comment to 20 or 30 people, those 20 or 30 people are going to see the post that you generate in 30 minutes from now. And then as you continue commenting on the comment, then they're going to see the post from tomorrow. And the more that just compounds day in and day out. Am I wrong?
Well, the other thing that's really cool actually is that, so I have one sphere of influence who are economists who say very clever things, way cleverer than I could ever say, that have huge followings, hundreds of thousands or millions of people, and they get sometimes hundreds of comments. But I like commenting on them. They give me food for thought. And I'll think about what I want to say and how I relate to what they say. And by the way, what I also do is when I put those comments, pro tip for this, when I make those comments, if I think it is particularly clever, I will note that down as a post to write later. Let me flesh that out later. And so I have a checklist of all the ideas that I have when I'm doing the commenting for posts to do later. So it kind of feeds on itself.
Gives you so many great ideas, right? Because when you're in there paying attention to other people as well, you just, for me anyways, as a syndication attorney, I was like, oh, these are the kind of questions and concerns people are having because it keeps coming up and they have questions about this. So it's like, well, let me just make a post about that or maybe share the post if I agree with it. So yeah, it gives you great content ideas.
Exactly. And it's a way of expediting the whole process. Now, just to be clear, so what I've figured out works really, really well. So this is what I'll be sharing next week in a mastermind. But I want to be clear that, I'm no guru, right, on this. I've just spent the last 5 months obsessing over how to make that hour spent every day super productive, right? And the results are, I mean, I'll just get ahead of myself here, but the leads that I'm getting are mind-blowing. They're so cool. real people who are really interested in engaging me in business. It is super out of absolutely nowhere. But there are 4 levels of LinkedIn activity. I'm level 3. Level 1 is you got a profile and you don't do anything, right? Basically 0. Level 2, and this is what I used to do, is auto post it. So I create, and what we used to do for our clients was create hundreds of posts with great graphics and then auto post once a day. But nobody commented or responded. And it works extremely well for me. I used to auto post with no activity 10 times a day. Can you believe that? On the hour, every hour from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., I had 4,000 posts that I rotated with all kinds of funnels and everything. It worked really well. The next level is what I'm talking about now, where you actively participate in the investor relations or the business development role that your business really needs. That's level 3. And level 4.
Tell me what 4 is. I want to know why I'm not in 4.
Level 4 is, there are millions of different layers, right? All kinds of little nuances and I'm testing, by the way, I'm testing all of them. So there's one is you post in the morning, so I'm in California. So you post at 6 a.m., that's 9 a.m. Eastern, and then you post again later in the day. There's another guy I see who posts who's got a huge following and gets a lot of activity. He blocks comments. I don't know why. It's like a whole thing. Yeah. So he posts, blocks comments, and then posts again and allows comments. But okay, that's I wonder why he does that. He's now changed that to you can only comment if we are first degree. Okay, so he's clearly testing things. Yeah. Now I test stuff as well, but there are all kinds of.
I want to lean into that because I do think that testing is the way to go because I think everybody's audience is slightly different. And so, I've seen people that sometimes they post 3 times a day. Some people post 1 time a day. Some people post 1 long form every day. And I think it's just different for every person. Like your audience might be different. So I would encourage you guys to mix and match. I'm a big, as you guys know, Adam, I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V's, and I just was looking what he was doing, and he was posting 3 times a day. One was a video post, one was a infographic post, one was a pure content, pure letters post. So I'm like, oh, maybe that works. So you could try that for a little bit and see how that works. Or maybe screw that. I'm going to do 1 post, pure words, no video, no photo, and just see what resonates and what seems to gain traction, and then double down on what works. That's why I think posting a lot helps. It's not so much you're reaching so many people, as you just get your feedback loop is so much quicker.
Well, the thing, so level 4, to talk about that again, level 4 are people whose entire business is on LinkedIn.
Right.
Their business is getting more followers. Their business is getting more comments, and their business is then upselling directly to them. There's one guy I was following recently who had, 400,000 followers, kind of interesting mindset posts. I mean, they were interesting, etc. I thought that's kind of cool. So I was commenting back. And then he wrote a post on sleep. It was quite a good post, actually. Why you need sleep and this, that, and the other. And at the end of the bloody post, again, excuse my language, he said, and the best sleep I've ever had was on a mattress. Click here and buy yours today. And I just thought, this guy is in a different business from me.
Yep.
And you simply do not need 500,000 followers to be exceptionally successful on LinkedIn if the quality of your network is high. You really don't need to have hundreds of thousands of people.
Adam, let me ask you a question. I got some questions here in the comment. Tiffany was asking, she said, I've just posted on LinkedIn literally 30 minutes before this call. Is it too late to start, quote unquote, commenting on other people's posts to increase visibility?
Tiffany, what a great question. So back to what Mauricio said, you got to test, right? Test, see what happens. Ideally, and it's a one-off. What I will tell you is that be more, not deliberate, is plan it better. So next time you have a post, go on and start commenting, but you can't just do one-offs, Tiffany. It really is, you've got to be consistent with it. You've got to show up consistently. So post every day or at least 3 times a day at the same time of day, and set your schedule around that so that you are commenting on on what happens. What do you find works best? Comment, like, comment, DMs into right. So
now let me repeat that. So Vessi asks, what do you find works best to convert likes, comments, or DMs into clients?
Yeah, it's interesting. So likes, so you want to like and comment, and what happens, and then you should also have a parallel program that is direct messaging, highly or laser picked target audience, right? Your ideal prospects. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you want to be targeting you want to be sending direct messages to between 10 and 20 every day to a targeted list. This is where Navigator comes in helpful. That's a parallel program. Now there's some skills to how, because you can spend a lot of time tailoring your outreach to each individual person. That's very time consuming. I've actually developed a language pattern that seems to work pretty well for mass DMing. And again, I'll get into the details of those language patterns next week. But what you want to do is you want to tee something up that encourages engagement, somebody to get back to you. So that's a parallel path. And you want to be doing that regularly. Direct messaging, yes, you want to be doing that. But again, you could, if you have a formula, you can do that very quickly. And if you use Navigator, you can identify those groups, those perfect avatars, or those prospect avatars very, very quickly to do the direct messaging.
Do you still recommend using these scheduling posts?
Well, yes, I do actually. The reason that, there are a couple of platforms that I use to schedule. If I have a one-off, which I do occasionally, if I see an economics post that I want to reposition or post myself or comment on in detail, I'll use the LinkedIn scheduler. But the reason I think that people don't like those systems is because it's so important to be active before and after you post. So if you auto post, it's easy to forget, like Tiffany, right? I posted half an hour ago. Is it too late? All right, well, plan your day, right? I'm going to post tomorrow at 6 a.m. or at 9 a.m. Eastern, whatever, right? I'm going to post tomorrow and I'm going to spend an hour and I'm going to start commenting first and then I'm going to post. So I am very disciplined with that. It's become part of my daily routine. I actually look forward to it every day, getting up in the morning and going on LinkedIn, because I'm starting to make some really good friends. I'm meeting interesting people, and the leads that it's generating for Mauricio are mind-blowing, like really crazy good. And I don't one of
the pro tips, I don't know if I'm sure you agree with it because it kind of already, you've been talking about it, but one of the things I like to do is when you are posting on the comments, to make the post or your comment, especially at the end, in the form of a question. So that prompts a response from the person. So you could say whatever you're going to say and say, like, do you agree? Or what are your thoughts? Or something like that. That'll make it more likely for the person who made the post originally to respond, even if they just say, thanks for posting or whatever. But if you can start that engagement back and forth, do a couple of 2 or 3 posts in the comment section back and forth, that really, I think, gets the engines going, and they'll definitely see your next post.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because that is a extremely deep insight that you just had.
I hope I'm not stealing for what you're going to be discussing.
No. I'm really glad you brought it up, because we did talk about testing as well. So one of the things that I want to develop again in this training that I'm doing next week amongst my network, and actually accidentally stumbled across yesterday, was exactly this idea. So pods, we talked about them. This is collaboration that violates LinkedIn's terms. Collaboration. being the key word. But LinkedIn encourages collaboration. In fact, if you're on LinkedIn, you've almost certainly been invited to contribute to what? A collaborative article, right? They actually use that word. Please collaborate on this article. So something that I tested yesterday to tremendous success accidentally was I agreed with somebody, I won't say who flaked the slacker when it came to it. I said, look, I tell you what, let's do this. What people look for are number of comments, and a comment might be something as dim as game changer. That classifies as a comment, but it doesn't add anything. But if you and I, Mauricio, if we have a discussion, in fact, we should try this later. Let's give it a test. We'll do it on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, we'll do it.
To do it.
Yeah.
Let's have a discussion about that topic and see, does that draw people in? By the way, I really don't know if it works, but it's worth trying. Does that draw people in? And now what happens is, let's say you and I have a conversation in a post on the comments, just back and forth discussing it. It spikes the number of comments, but now somebody coming in and seeing that, it's almost as though they are looking over your shoulder. And instead of seeing it's almost voyeuristic. Instead of seeing some kind of glib nothing comment, now they can actually learn something from a dialogue that it's like listening on somebody else's phone call. It's actually really interesting.
They'll absolutely see that, because on LinkedIn specifically, they have the notification piece that gives you the summary, and they'll actually see if Adam likes one of my posts and then Vessi comments on my post, Adam will see Vessi's comment because he liked my post. And so if that's a substantive comment, not just thank you or great post or agreed, but like your comments, you absolutely see that in sort of the preview or the notification section when you're just looking for the notifications on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and yesterday I did this. I had an agreement with somebody. All right, let's test it. Let's just have a conversation. I wrote a post about the pros and cons of whatever economic policies are likely to hit us in post Jan 20, right? So next year. And he didn't show up, the slacker.
I'll do it with you. I'll do it with you.
But somebody else did. Oh my goodness. And we had without any planning, and we had a really interesting back and forth. But I would love to do that with you, Mauricio. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's see what happens. I don't know. It may work. It may not.
Let me get through a couple last questions. I know we're running low on time here, but Eugene says, once you engage with someone, how often do you continue to go back to that person to continue that flow connection? Then once you get a lot of activity with that connection, how do you control the traffic where you are not tied up most of the time on LinkedIn? How do I not spend 7 hours a day on LinkedIn? Because I don't know, yes, I've got a real job or a real business to run.
Okay, so the answer to that question is, if this is a hot prospect, right? If this is somebody who you want to be engaging with, because for whatever reason, they're an investor or they're a sponsor or they're a broker or a journalist or whatever it is, the answer to your question is engage with them every day. And there are shortcuts to doing that. So you don't have to go and find them. There are ways of getting to them and other people in those spheres of influence super quickly, so that you can very efficiently go through and comment. And over time, they will react to you. They will look you up. They will go to your website. They will look at your LinkedIn profile. They'll look at your other comments and they will comment back, and they will engage with, they will come to you. That's why you want to be, I keep forgetting the word. It's not deliberate. You want to be
strategic.
Huh?
Strategic?
Intentional. Thank you. Who said that? A word from the back room there somewhere. A word for intentional. You want to be intentional about it. Exactly. So identify who are those groups. And by the way, change them as well. You can change them over time, add to them, take away, create new ones. But if you do it in an intentional way that is systemized, it is not difficult to be very, very effective and to comment on that person's post every single time they post. And you should do.
Paul asked, someone told me that if I repost an article from another person within 1 hour of my own post, it will hurt the algorithm. Is that true?
I try to, so I have my own posts go out at Pacific time, so 6 a.m. And I do not post again until 12 o'clock. So I wait till midday before I post again because I don't want to confuse things. So oftentimes I write all my posts in batches. I schedule them. I know I'm going to be there so I can work the system, when they go out. But occasionally I will see somebody else's post I really like. What I like to do is to comment on economic reports. And by the way, you can do that so easily on ChatGPT. Oh my goodness me, you can be so intelligent. And then you weave your thought process and your authentic perspective as well into that. And I will schedule that for 12 o'clock. And I'm not, in those cases, typically I'm not, like this one yesterday. I put it out there and then he didn't show up. So I stopped looking at it. And when I went back, there was like a dozen comments. So I got more engaged in it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I would add, just again, test it out. I mean, I've noticed that if I post too many times or I make a post pretty close to the prior post, I can just see the level of engagement or the amount of reach that second post gets is lower. But you just got to test, do it, find out for yourself. I would say post 10 times a day for a month and see what happens, and then post 1 time a day and see what the results are.
Well, right? The other thing that's kind of cool actually is that you can download all your stats and analyze to see what is the best time of day, what posts work the best. And you can analyze them and then double down on those. By the way, I've also created a bunch of prompts. Oh my goodness. I did a deep analysis of what types of posts work extremely well. And all you need to do is to put in your thought and your angle, and it's like heavenly to write these things. It's like, how did you know I thought that way? It's unbelievable.
I don't, we're kind of running out of time here. I know we could probably talk for another hour. By the way, Erica, you had a question about a pre-existing relationship. If you go on my YouTube channel, I've just searched pre-existing relationship. We did a whole episode on that. That's a great question, but we're just not going to have time to answer it. So Adam, tell us about this.
Yes, I will do. So I'm going to do this. So I've created, this mastermind, I'm going to go through all this. I like to say, you don't know me from Adam. So if it doesn't work for you, just let me know. And there is a charge because I want you to be serious about this, right? It's not a freebie, but use this code MR200. And you get $200 off, right? So MR200, that's a coupon code at checkout. So it'll give you a discount on the training. It's next week, Tuesday and Thursday at noon Pacific. Everything will be recorded. And then the following week as well, noon Pacific on the 10th and 12th. It's all there in that link. Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I do want to answer one of these questions. Somebody said, how did I learn all this? Paula, you know how I learned it? Obsessive interest, an absolute obsession with doing something impossible. That's what I've spent the last 5 months, truly 5 months, almost constantly figuring this stuff out. In fact, in preparation for the mastermind, apart from today, the rest of this week and all of next week and all of the week after, all I'm doing is preparing and researching and creating stuff that's really, really cool for you. And by the way, I love it. It's so effective.
It's fun. Yeah. I'd spend an hour and it's like, I'd spend more if it wasn't like I had to run a business. But I guess now that I don't have to run a business, I can just spend more time.
Now you can just idle all your time away. Exactly.
All right, Adam. Obviously, people can go to the link that's in the chat. And by the way, you guys can save the chat too, but I'll leave it up there before I log off here so you guys get all this info and connect with each other as well. I encourage that as well. Other than the link, what's another good way to get a hold of you? Is it gowercrowd.com or is there an email? Or
gowercrowd.com. And I have a newsletter that goes out as well. Just hit the subscribe button. you'll see all of the, well, not all of them, but some of the companies that my subscribers work for. Yes, some of my subscribers, quite an impressive list. When I put it together, it impressed me. So I assume it'll impress others as well. But it's there at gowercrowd.com. Hit the subscribe button. Tiffany, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to save this, but I will connect. I just opened up that link. But if you do want to join the mastermind, it is on my LinkedIn profile as well. But importantly, remember, MR stands for Mauricio Rauld, 200, just so you can remember easily. Use that coupon and please join us. I really do guarantee you'll see results. I guarantee it, or I will refund you. That's the extent of the guarantee. Right. So I really believe it's going to work for you.
If you'd like to join us live on these episodes and have a chance to get your specific question answered, you can simply go to realestatesyndicatorlive.com and register to be live on the show. Hope to see you then.